We're going to get more analysis now with Kethevane Gorjestani, who joins me on the set. Kethevane, Donald Trump today is expected to get a formal briefing by top national security officials on his options regarding Iran. Do we have a better idea on what those options might be and whether Donald Trump is still considering military action?
Well, one of the options was to continue and deepen the sanctions against Iran. And you could think that in a way, the announcement of the 25% tariffs on countries that do business with Iran is a way to put pressure economically on the Iranian regime. But beyond that, there are, in the words of the White House press secretary, many more options that are available. Cyber attacks, more military strikes, but also diplomacy with those possible talks regarding the nuclear program. And it seems, according to a latest report by the Wall Street Journal, that is what top officials, including the Vice President J.D. Vance and the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, are trying to push Donald Trump towards. Diplomacy, try to do those talks first, and then let's keep the potential of military strikes as something that we would do at a later time. But in that same report by the Wall Street Journal, it seems that Donald Trump himself is leaning towards potential strikes, military action. And we saw in that report what he was saying aboard Air Force One, saying we might need to act before those talks can happen. That means that it is a possibility that the president is eyeing potentially smaller strikes in order to put pressure on the regime to then get back to the negotiating table over the nuclear program. And one thing to remind our viewers of is what happened last summer before the United States struck Iran. Remember, Donald Trump put out a 2-week deadline for the Iranians to come to the negotiating table. And instead of waiting for the 2-week deadline, he decided to strike within hours of making that statement. So being very careful as to what sort of signals the White House is sending. It could also be a way of throwing off the Iranian regime from what the U.S. is actually wanting to do.
And what about Iran and all of this? Is the regime ready for the possibility of the U.S. trying to take out its leadership?
Well, look, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he is 86 years old, and he has long had a very frail health. And so his succession has been something that's been in the works for years now in Iran. But this has increased the search for a replacement, for a successor, in the last couple of years. 2 years ago, Khamenei himself decided to appoint or name a 3-man committee that took clerics from the Assembly of Clerics to try to look for the best possible successor to himself. And that search sort of kicked into higher gear last summer, in June specifically, when the United States and the Israelis carried out those strikes, when Ali Khamenei was hiding out, fearing for his life. That's when the regime itself was thinking, well, we need to find someone in case something happens. There are a couple of names, 2 main names that are coming out. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, he is the sort of continuity choice. He's seen as a hardliner the way his father is. But there is also Hassan Khomeini. He is the grandson of Ayatollah Khamenei, who was the father of the Islamic Revolution, and he is seen relatively in the leadership of Iran as someone who is a little bit more of a reformist than Khamenei, and they're both pretty much around the same age. One is 56, the other 53. Those are the 2 personalities, the figures, but there could also be the potential for Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps to sort of decide to take matters into their own hands and try to appoint someone who's maybe lesser known, doesn't have that name recognition that the other 2 have, and who could be a sort of puppet for the IRGC. It has to be noted that the IRGC itself was decimated last summer during those U.S. and Israeli strikes, and they were replaced very quickly. So you see that the Iranian regime, yes, they have these figures, they have these big names, but they are also always on the lookout to replace those figures when something happens.